Good morning, Senators, excuse me, and representatives and fellow citizens of South Carolina. My name is Doug Busbee, and I stand before you today representing farmers, business people, and the conservation community across South Carolina. We have great concerns about the current surface water law and its detrimental effects on South Carolina rivers and ultimately its citizens. Until the winter of 2013, I never really thought of myself as a conservationist. I hunted, I fished, I loved the outdoors. I tried to be good stewards of what the Lord had entrusted to us, but I just never saw the need to join a group and cause a fuss. I respected a lot of what the conservation community did and stood for, but it was not my fight. I come from the small town of Wagener, South Carolina. My people have farmed and had farm-related businesses in the Wagener, Sally, and Springfield communities since the 1700s. These communities are located between the forks of the North and South Edisto rivers. The rivers and creeks that feed the Edisto watershed have sustained my family for over 200 years. We've grown rice, asparagus, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, corn, cotton, cattle, hogs, and sheep. And my grandfather's even floated logs all the way from down to Charleston on the Edisto. We understand the ebb and flow of the Edisto and farming in the sandy soils that surround it very well. My roots run deep in agriculture. I also believe in the future of agriculture. I have a son that is in Clemson, majoring in agricultural education right now. He's in his last year. I believe the future of our nation relies on the American farmer as a cornerstone because of their independence, moral character, and work ethic. Anything that undermines the independence of the South Carolina family farm would ultimately undermine America. Our community was very shocked when a giant farm showed up on the banks of the Edisto. For many years, the general understanding was that the river was protected from development that would endanger it. Locals had been levied heavy fines and even threatened with jail time for tampering with it. The farm had been registered to withdraw 800 million gallons per month and was already starting to develop a second farm 3 miles downstream of almost the same proportion. We quickly learned that the South Carolina surface water laws had been changed and put into effect January 1st, 2012. We began to learn of the law's inadequacies in protecting the rivers and streams of South Carolina. And we began to see just what was attracting these large farms. It was our water and South Carolina's very loose agricultural water withdrawal rules. We began to speak out and were labeled as radical environmentalists and extremists by our own South Carolina Farm Bureau, where many of us have been members for 40 and 50 years. Farm Bureau began a vigorous lobbying campaign called Save SC Farmers, which tried to pit South Carolina farmers against the conservation community, when in reality, our goals are the same. We learned that we have a law in the books that exempted agriculture entities, big and small, from many of the safeguards that apply to industry and public water suppliers. The law was supposed to protect family farms from undue financial burdens, while also protecting fishermen, outdoorsmen, and wildlife by ensuring that our rivers and streams had adequate flow at all times. We also learned that the Department of Natural Resources had spent 2 years prior to the law's implementation speaking out against the 2010 water withdrawal law, whose loopholes had attracted the giant farms. The major flaws that we see in the law that are detrimental to South Carolina's rivers and streams and ultimately its citizens are: it is possible for any river or stream in South Carolina to be pumped completely dry, with no penalties or consideration of fairness for downstream users or respect for navigable waters. Withdrawal formula is based on median flows, which creates a scenario where the amount drawn out of a stream or river can be as much as 5 to 6 times the actual flow during summer months and low flow periods. There's no public notice or transparency is required in the current registration process, even though downstream users may be losing their riparian rights. There's no input from DNR, who know and understand the river best. It is not allowed or required when considering current water withdrawal registration. Water grants are forever. I'm going to say that again. Water grants are forever with no review, regardless of changing circumstances. It is also possible and legal under the current law that one person can take the entire flow of any South Carolina river for as many as five months of the year. And if you refer to your handout, if y'all got a handout, you'll see a picture of me standing in a small creek. This is Goodland Creek, just east of Springfield, South Carolina. And under the current formula and under the current law, there's supposedly enough water in this small creek to support the whole city of Anderson, and there'll be water left over. Notice it's ankle deep. I didn't even get the tops of my boots wet. The weaknesses and flaws in the law have resulted in a lawsuit because of loss of riparian rights of downstream users. DHEC is the defendant in this suit, but ultimately the law is to blame. I spent the past year reaching out to as many South Carolina farmers as possible. And I can assure you that Farm Bureau does not speak for all farmers. Let me say that again. I can assure you that Farm Bureau does not speak for all farmers. There's some here in the room today. But I am a Farm Bureau member, and I do believe it's a good organization, and I do believe it's worthy of being a part of. And if they're going to make the laws, I'm going to be a part of them. When a farmer understands the issue, he is on our side. Last week in a meeting with a number of farmers, myself and Jason Walters of Walters Potato Farm, this is the big farm that's been in the controversy, Jason agreed that the law is flawed and will result in damage to the river. Jason himself agreed that the law is flawed. On the back of your handout sheet, you'll see pictures of several of the people we've talked to and quotes from them relating to this issue. There's Mr. Smith, my high school agriculture teacher, who taught in Wagener for 35 years and at the age of 93 provides a lifetime perspective on water stewardship. There's Trent Rushton, farmer and former state FFA president, currently enrolled at Clemson as an ag ed major, speaking as a representative from the next generation of South Carolina farmers. And there are Wayne and Vince Furtick, father and son, speaking as members of a multi-generational family who've been making their living from the soil and water of the South Fork of the Edisto all their lives. If you'd like to see more of what they have to say about this issue for yourselves, we invite you to watch the video we prepared for you, which is posted online at South Carolina Rivers Forever, scriversforever.org / keep it flowing, didn't you, Tom?
Fix the problem.
Fix the problem. scriversforever.org, fix the problem. I said before, my family's roots run deep in agriculture, and we enjoy the independence and freedom that agricultural life brings. We understand the importance of embracing change. We've had to embrace change and new ideas in order to survive on the sandy and often water-deprived soils that we live on. Wayne Furtick, who you see in the handout, was the first to introduce the round hay bale to the southeast, which innovated storage and handling of hay. Our family was also the first to bring beef cattle into the state. They shipped them in from Texas in the 1800s. There were no fences then. They had to tend them like herdsmen, day and night. We were also the first to introduce the Charolais bloodline into South Carolina, increasing our quality and quantity of beef production. We have had to embrace change. But let me tell you, there's one change that I am greatly concerned about, and that is the change in policy of our agriculture departments openly recruiting giant out-of-state farms. Knowing of the seriousness of the situation on the Edisto, and without any existing long-term plan for sustaining South Carolina's most precious resource, water. And on a very personal note, I am seriously concerned about the 26,000 farmers, South Carolinian farmers, ability to compete with farms that are 30 and 40 times their size for water, land, and market share. I believe that agriculture is the key to economic prosperity in rural South Carolina, but I am also aware that overdevelopment is much worse than no development. There's a notion coming from Farm Bureau and the ag community that we need to wait on science. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. I have spent hours talking to the USGS and DNR scientists. They assure me that millions of taxpayer dollars have already been spent studying surface water and groundwater of South Carolina in real-time data over 70 years. They fully understand the workings of every river basin in South Carolina. The science has been done, and here it is. It's right here. They have done the studies. They know what's in the river. They know what we can use and can't use. They know what'll hurt us. All we got to do is ask for it, and it's free. It's free. We don't have to spend another $1 million, $2 million to understand it. USGS and DNR have got it. Senators, the Edisto is the canary in the coal mine. We have already seen historic lows, even though we're not in a drought. And even now, with all the recent rains, the Edisto continues to be 2/3 of its average flow for this time of year. The fight is not just about the Edisto, it is about every stream and river in South Carolina. This can happen anywhere in the state, from the mountains to the sea. Senators, we need you to take a leading role in helping remedy this ticking bomb. As lawmakers of South Carolina, you are the stewards of our public resources. Water is our most precious resource. No dollar amount can be placed upon it, or without it, there is no life. Citizens from every walk of life all over South Carolina are coming together in a unified grassroots effort called SC Rivers Forever to support change in the current surface water law. We have an unusual opportunity to get ahead of the curve and learn from the states that are in crisis right now. California is facing water regulations right now. The problem is they just don't have any water to regulate. We still do. We still do. I am asking for you to diligently seek a solution to the flaws in the current surface water law that is fair for South Carolina streams, rivers, citizens, and especially South Carolina farmers, who are the cornerstones of our communities. Thank you for hearing my cry. Sincerely, Doug Busbee.